What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel. If you guys are new, welcome. Sorry for the lack of content over the past 6 days. Had to go home for Christmas and the holidays to see the family. It was the first one without grandma, so definitely had to make the most of it. And then also one of my stepsisters did get COVID, so we did have to isolate for a while. But we are back on the PC, being able to edit and grind out some content for you guys. And have you guys been supporting me? So I want to do everything I can to help everyone out, and it just makes me feel so good when I do get to be able to help even 5-10 people out. It's what I'm here for. Definitely my favorite part about content creation, and you guys are supporting me right back with the views and the subscriptions, so just thank you guys so much for that. Now today we are going over another solo Lost Sector guide here, switching it up a little bit, doing a master version instead of the legendary, just to show you all the extra champions and stuff like that that go into the master version of a Lost Sector. But we're going to go over the loadouts first and then the gameplay of how to go through this Lost Sector, because we are going through K1 Logistics and it does kind of take a while. All the moon Lost Sectors are long and tedious compared to all the other planets. So for our Warlock here, we are going bottom tree Voidwalker for that Devour perk. By eating your grenades or getting that charged melee kill, you proc Devour, you get your health back, and then it continues for 10 seconds and keeps adding up every single kill that you get. For our weapons, I'm using the Arbalest for our anti-barriers within this Lost Sector, because there are anti-barrier and overload. This thing absolutely shreds anti-barriers, and with the linear fusion particle deconstruction, this thing is bopping. Now I don't have the catalyst fully unlocked yet. I just got it not that long ago, so I'm in the process of unlocking it, and that'll help as well. For our secondary right here, we are going with an arc bow, just because there are some arc shields within the Lost Sector, and this deals perfectly with our overload champions. Finally, right here, we are going with our Ascendancy rocket, because the explosive light does a lot of damage on the boss, and this deals with our solar shields within the Lost Sector. Now, they are floating shanks, so you could pick something else like a solar machine gun like the Avalanche from the Dawning, but I do think that this right here with explosive light is super helpful with doing damage on the boss, as well as even some of those champions if you can't get them killed right away. So all of those weapons will be the same on Titan and Hunter as well, but the armor will be different. All the mods and stuff will be the same, just the exotic that you have on your Titan and Hunter. So for Warlock, we are going with Eyes of Another World with Protective Light on it, so you can get that ability regen and have more grenades on you to have that Devour proc, and then your melee so you can get those charged melee kills. Then just our typical stuff, we got charged with light, so we can have that protective light with an overload bow, since we have anti-barrier intrinsically on Arbalest. Right here we got some sniper resistance, just because there are a decent amount of those sniper shanks and stuff like that going on. Right here we have all of our scavs and another charged up mod, just to keep that protective light always active basically. And then finally right here we have the actual taking charge, where we grab orbs of light to get the taking charge, and then particle deconstruction that just pairs perfectly with the Arbalest and destroys enemies super fast. So for Titan here, we are going to use bottom tree Sunbreaker, so we can have those sunspots with Sun Warrior and fusion grenades, so we can use our solar abilities to take care of some of these solar shields within the Lost Sector. Not that it's necessary, but it definitely helps compared to using like a Void Super for the DPS with Warlock. And then for the Titan exotic right here, we are going Hollowed Fired Heart, which I use for all of my solar subclasses on Titan, just because the solar ability regen is faster, especially when your super is charged, so more of those fusion grenades for you. And we do have protective light on it, just like the other ones, all charged with light mods and protective light to get through the Master Lost Sector. Finally, for our Hunter right here, I'm going top tree Night Stalker for that dodge for invisibility, plus the ad management of tether is ideal for especially the boss room on this Lost Sector, in my opinion. I love this super, definitely a go-to for end content with a Hunter. Now for me pairing that, I'm using the 6 Coyote, so I can have 2 dodges. Yes, I know this one right here is kind of a trash 6 Coyote, looking for a new one, but it does have protective light on it, so we are going to get that to have that protection just like our other classes. And like I said, just use that double dodge, go invis, and use it for survivability, and then tether for that add clear mechanic, and just manage some of those more challenging enemies during the end boss room. Alright, so when you first load into the Lost Sector, you will have to deal with a couple trip mines that are on the wall and then an overload champion that comes through. So before you push through the red lasers, make sure that you are dealing with the overload captain with your bow. You can stun him. Make sure that you have your major spec on your bow, because major spec does more damage against champions than actual boss spec does. So that is what I personally recommend. As you continue to move through after you defeat that first overload champion, you will have to deal with a barrier champion inside right after that across the bridge. It's a servitor. Just make sure you're tagging it with your arbalist a little bit, and then its shield will come up. As soon as you break that shield, it's just gonna absolutely melt, and you don't have to worry about it slapping it with your arbalist. Right here, we do have our first arc shield. It's an arc captain, pretty easy to deal with, especially with the bow, just because it blows that shield off, and there are a couple other enemies that are around that you also have to deal with. Nothing crazy in this Lost Sector yet, really, until we get to the boss room is slightly challenging, just because there's a lot going on. So after you clear out that barrier, the overload, and that first arc shield, there's a couple sniper vandals up top that you have to worry about, as well as our first solar shields that we are going to have to dealing with, as well as another overload champion. So you come up these stairs, and the champion will be hiding out somewhere up these stairs, and you just got to deal with them slowly, because they do hit super hard, and their teleportation allows them to get away and get their health back faster than most of the other champions. So just deal with him slowly. You can stand on the stairs if you want, or lead him back to the left so you can use that longer lane to shoot at him. After you deal with that overload champion, this is where your rocket will come into play, dealing with the shanks with the solar shields, and we also have 2 more overload champions and 1 barrier before we move on to the final room. So go about it slowly. Stay in this back area, which I am staying in, because exploder shanks will come out, and it does keep you safe from all of the enemies that are underneath. They won't start jumping up. The only one that will push you is the overload champion that comes from the end door. So the second champion that comes out, deal with it after you deal with the anti-barrier that is on the floor, because the anti-barrier servitor will actually protect the overload sometimes. So in my opinion, you should try and deal with the anti-barrier servitor on the floor first, using that arbalist, and get it out before you deal with the overload, because it can get a little messy. But if he does have the chance to be killed before you deal with the barrier, then more power to you. It just sometimes doesn't work out, because he will get sucked from a mile away by that servitor and go immune. Now, once you clear this room, we are basically on to the boss room, which is the longest part of the fight, just because there are a lot of enemies that hit super hard, and there isn't much cover to hide. So after you wipe out all of the enemies here, you come in this little hallway where we will have to deal with 1 more overload champion before we make it to the boss room. Super easy, just like before. Use your bow, stun them, and then use your arbalist and just annihilate them. Super easy, takes about 4 or 5 shots with the arbalist, depending on your level going into this Lost Sector. So in the boss room on the right hand side, at first there will be a barrier champion which you have to deal with. Make sure you deal with it first, because it will make all of the other enemies immune in this area. Once you deal with it, another one actually drops down as well. So deal with that second anti-barrier as soon as you possibly can, because once again, they do suck, making everything else immune around you, which just makes the grind for this Lost Sector so much longer. Once you defeat the second anti-barrier in the boss room, a bunch of other enemies will start to spawn, as well as the shanks, which you will have to use your ascendancy on to blow up the solar shields on them and deal with them that way. Now, lastly, we have 1 more overload champion that will spawn. Once you start clearing out some of the ads and killing the 2 nightmare enemies, there will be a shank and a dreg that is yellow bar. They are the nightmare versions, just a little bit harder, but not tanky really. So you got to deal with those. And then on the left hand side, there will be another overload champion that spawns. And after you destroy that champion and all of the other enemies in the room, then the boss will become unimmune and you can start your DPS phase on the boss. If you want, you can wipe him out immediately because all your champions are gone at this point after you deal with that overload champion. So that is it for the Lost Sector. You just got to manage this last room, which once you do a certain amount of damage on the boss, he will teleport to the left side first, and then once you do a little bit more damage, they will teleport back to the right hand side and just have enemies popping up with them, vandals and captains, where you have to use your arc bow to take care of those arc shields. But that's really it. Just play it super slow and safe. Try to rotate around the room to get better angles, because people do like to hide behind some of these pillars where you can't really reach them, and then once you get close, they just start to charge you. So super fun, super easy Lost Sector. When you're going through it, you just got to take it nice and slow because it is a little bit longer than some of the other Lost Sectors that we have, especially on other planets. The Moon Lost Sectors kind of suck, but worth it in the end to get that nice exotic loot doing these solo. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this helped you guys out. The rest of the time is just going to be finishing this Lost Sector up. Not too much gameplay, but thank you guys again for the crazy support. It means a lot. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.